Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Matt. How you doing?
Hanging in there. The COVID-19 is kind of a pain in the butt, but we're getting there. Um, so I wanted to jump right in, and I thought we would just start. Most important thing on everyone's mind, according to the surveys they sent in, was the money, the finances, like how to deal with this COVID-19. You got 100% of your bills. You got your rent. You got your lease. You got all of your bills, but you only get a fraction of your income now with social distancing, and some people are limited to online only. Some people are able to reopen depending on which state you're in, but only at a fraction of what you got. So what do you do with a fraction of your income but all of the debt or all the cost?
Yeah, that's an important question because right now we're dealing with a pandemic. We're dealing with something that we've never seen before. So this is not something that's a local or regional thing. This is something that's a national, international thing. So everybody's going through it. So first and foremost, when it comes to finance, you really have to, we as business owners and individuals, we really need to know what our finances are in the first place. What I would say is let's go ahead and dive right into this right now, and let's go ahead and get started with the business aspect of it. Personal, we can set that up for a later time, but for business, what I would recommend is right now for all school owners, there is passed by the CARES Act. The CARES Act offered the PPP loan or the EIDL loan. And what these loans were, the Paycheck Protection and the Economic Injury Disaster loans. Now with these loans, a lot of people that I talk with or try to help with their businesses, their response to me is, Jerry, I don't want to go get a loan and go into debt. Well, the good thing about these loans through my research, and I personally got one of these loans for my business, and once you get the loan and you apply for the loan and you get the loan, you may not have to pay that back. If you use that money correctly and you can follow you pay your payroll with it and it's used for what it's supposed to be, then you may not have to pay that back. But if you do take that money and you have to pay that money back, it's at a 1% over several years. I mean, how can you beat that? Those are great percentages right there. So I would say the PPP loan or the EIDL loan is really important to get that first and foremost. Second one, now I'm kind of reaching out there a little bit, but this is some off my personal experience and with some of my colleagues in the financial world that we talk about is if you own your own home, get a second loan on your home, get a HELOC loan. You don't have to use that money unless you absolutely need it. If there is a second wave of coronavirus and shutdowns like they're predicting, then we can use that money to really help our families or our businesses if this happens in the fall. But let's go ahead and jump into it a little bit differently. Let's go ahead and start talking about how to handle our debt altogether. So for our business, communication is everything. We want to make sure that we communicate with everybody we owe a debt to. So get a piece of paper out. What I recommend is get a piece of paper out, write all your debts, cars, rent for your facility or for your school, phones, what else I have written down here? Anything, light and gas, internet, whatever it may be, whatever you pay a monthly subscription to, write that down. What you want to do is you want to reach out to these companies and ask them if you can get some free rent. Ask them if you can get some free months. Believe it or not, they're expecting our phone call. They're expecting you to give them a call because everybody's calling and they have programs set up to help small businesses at this time right now. And it's all part of that CARES Act. They're not going to evict you. They're not going to shut your cell phone off. They're not going to shut your light and gas off. But what they're going to do is sit with you and talk to you and help you through one of their programs, set up lower payments, maybe give you some free months. Let's focus on the rent right now. For my facility, I pay $7,000 a month for it. And that's a lot of money for rent here where I'm stationed in Colorado. So I reached out to my to my manager and I explained to them and said, listen, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. I've lost 40% of my students. I can't justify paying $7,000 a month. I brought a solution to him, or I brought something to them and said, listen, I would like to pay 50% of my rent each month. And for the months that I have to pay 50%, I want to have 6 months of that. And the money that I'm not paying you, We're going to take that and put that at the back of our loan. So really restructuring our loan or restructuring our contract or restructuring our lease. So this way they still get their money, but we're getting the free money up front that or the free time frame that we need. So this way we can get through the pandemic during this time frame. And majority of the leasing offices, they're going for it. There's not an issue. They're expecting it. As long as there's some type of resolution, they want to help. They don't want us to leave, or they don't want us to shut our businesses down. But we have to have some type of plan going into it. Now, for somebody who, for the martial arts school, and they're coming up on their lease, within that 12 months, maybe even 18 months, they can contact their leasing agent and say, listen, I would like to re-sign my lease for my facility. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but when you when you reset that lease for a new lease, what you're telling them is, one, you want to stick around, you're here for the long haul, but two, you're going to ask them for 3 months up front no matter what. I need to have 6 months free up front. And they say if you have a 5-year lease or a 10-year lease or whatever it is, you're going to be able to put that money or push it back even further so you can get through the rest of the summer and get into this pandemic. Also, I would recommend, if you do something like that, even if you're trying to renegotiate your lease or trying to go into a new lease, ask about tenant improvement money. Tenant improvement money is something that they'll authorize. Let's say you look around, you see your facility, and you need new lights, you need a new floor, you need paint. That's all going to take a certain amount of money. That's not my facility, it's theirs. So I'm keeping the upkeep of their building. So I'm going to ask them for $20,000. Can I get $20,000 in tenant improvement money? And they'll either say yes or they say no. If they say yes, great. You take the check and put it inside a savings account and hold on to it until the pandemic is over. If you need that money, you tap into it during that time frame. Every state's a little bit different, so I encourage everybody to look into that and make sure they are on the right path for not breaking the law. But here in Colorado, I believe in California, you can do this. I know in Florida you can. So go ahead and talk to them and see if you can get this that extension or try to renegotiate that lease. Credit cards. Right now, if you have a high amount of credit cards or any debt with credit cards, with the CARES Act, contact them. They'll give you lower rates. It's already they're already going into motion, setting people up with lower rates, even freezing their credit card payments. They're going to shut your credit card off, so that way you don't. This way you don't keep charging more credit. Sorry, I lost train of thought there. But so you don't lose or start using that credit card and keep furthering in debt. But they'll stop that for you. But remember, no matter what you do, whether it's going to be credit card, it's going to be rent, it's going to be your cars, or whatever it may be, whatever you're trying to drop down, remember, they're going to want their money back. They're going to want that money later on. So what happens is they're going to come knocking. Just because you have that free time frame doesn't mean that you can go play with that money. You need to be really mindful of what you have and mindful where you're going to put that money, how you're going to invest that. Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah, it does. But actually, let me get your see if you could clarify a couple of things. When we say it's a time frame, what sort of time frame would you recommend to ask for? Like because everything is so uncertain right now. Like how much time would you how much forbearance would you be asking from either your lenders or the landlord?
I would be asking for no less than 6 months. They may say no, but it's a good starting point. It just depends on what type of relationship you have with your credit card company, your phone company, cell phone, whatever, or the place you have your martial arts school. If you are in bad terms because you're always paying your rent late, they may not want to go for that.
All right. And going back to you had started with the PPP loans. Many people have applied, and of course, it's run out of money. If someone didn't apply for it in time, should they still apply for it on the chance that they would get more? That more money will be more funding will come from the federal government, or should they do something else?
No, I think they still should apply. There's money still available, and from what I understand from my research for this meeting, I believe that it's June 30th. So if you apply before June 30th, you're going to be put inside that tank. So you should still be able to get money, hopefully, if you have your taxes prepared and what they're looking for in order for you can get the money when they distribute it next.
And will there be? I have the last time I checked out when I was doing the research for this, I couldn't find the form for the to request forgiveness for the loan. But they said, but I did read that they have one coming. That there's going to be an application form for that.
Correct. There's going to be an application for it, and I don't know where to get that from. I haven't heard that they've even released it yet. There was legislation just passed that we don't have to use the PPP money within that 12-week or 16 weeks or whatever it was. Now they're pushing it out even further. So I think they're still working behind the scenes of what they're going to do and how they want this money to be accounted for later on. It's just don't know. We just don't know when they're going to want that information or when it's going to be done.
Okay, we'll just keep posted on that. But I wanted to move on a little bit because right up there with finances, the next most asked question was about optimizing your online classes, your online presence during this time because of the social distancing and the different quarantine regulations, even though we're opening back up in various stages throughout the country. How do you recommend optimizing your online class for both marketing benefit and for financial success?
Well, look, with anything, one thing that's really important to know is everybody's in this together. Right now, everybody is using online platforms, or we should. So I hope everybody that's listening to this interview, you are using some type of online platform, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram. We use Zoom because it has recording capabilities that we really like. So with that, we want to make sure that to think of it this way, in order to market during this time frame, we're not necessarily trying to market for new students to come in. We're marketing to our students that we currently have. It's about retention and keeping the students that we have. We don't want them to leave because outside COVID or outside this pandemic, we already know that it costs more money to bring a new student in than to keep a student. So we have to do everything we possibly can to keep the students that we have right now. So with that being said, we want to make sure that we record all of our virtual classes. This is something that I've reached out to other martial arts schools for this session. I wanted to see what they were doing across the board. I looked into Taekwondo, I looked into karate, obviously Wushu, New York City, all the way to California, Florida. And what the folks are doing that are keeping their students and keeping the proper retention is they're recording all of their sessions on Zoom. And when they record them, let's say they have a class, they record that, they take that recording, and you put that inside of a folder, and you're going to use that recording later on, so this way you can help martial arts students when they couldn't be there for classes. So we run 3 different areas. We want to make sure that, one, we have a Zoom class going, keep virtual, and we do Facebook, and we're also doing live classes. Here in our state in Colorado, we're able to have 10 students in a class max. So we're running hybrid classes. We want to make sure that our students are in a class with us, but also they're online. Some of the folks are not ready to come back. And that's the thing, is they're not going to want to come back right away. So we have to keep the hybrid classes going. We want to continue this hybrid classes all the way through the summer going into the fall, because there might be another shutdown. So with the financial area of it, we want to make sure that we record these sessions, and why not sell them? Why not sell our classes? You know, when you watch your movies late at night and you do it on demand on TV, why can't we do the same thing? We're in the process of doing that right now, where we're taking all of our classes that we filmed and we're uploading them into our website. And we go through Vimeo, so we can pretty much have control, we can lock it. But what happens is, we're streaming our classes, and if a person doesn't want to come to classes, maybe they don't want to go into a school. Maybe they're just really shy, or maybe they just don't want to go to a school. But They could download our videos. They could download our actual classes. Now, I would say don't give your high-end classes, don't give your special classes, right? It's just a general format, and then put them on your website, and they could buy a block of videos, and you can make revenue that way. So we're setting that up right now, and when we beta tested it, it worked really well. We have a bunch of people from around the country kind of jumping on and giving us a little bit of feedback with that. Does that make sense, Matt?
It does, but let me get a little bit of clarification on that too. Like, what sort of pricing model or framework do you have? Because you can't, since they are like it's like the old days, like buying VHS tapes or something like that.
Right.
What's the general pricing structure like relative and also on Vimeo are they paying per use or are they paying for a download or to have permanent access to that class?
Right, that's a great question, great point. Through Vimeo, for right now, the way we have it structured, once we upload that video, they have access until we shut it down, and we can have it set up for a certain time frame. They bought a week of classes, a month of classes, we give them all access. Price point. Now, price point's going to vary depending on your school or on the school that's providing the lessons or the videos. It just depends on the person. If I was to put, when I put ours on, we're going to put ours on for $69. That's it, $69 a month, and they'll have access. We can't, I believe, I'm not going to be able to give full price range because it's not in the class. It's not the in person getting that critiquing. They're just watching our videos. But they'll get for $69, they'll have a full access to a beginner level curriculum that they can actually get at the basically a push of the phone or on their TV to download those videos at that point. So that could be a different revenue for all of us. And what's important to know is when this pandemic hit, I think before the pandemic, there was only like 10% of people use Zoom or online teaching. Now it's 90%. 90%. Right. So what we went into this pandemic with, we should try to keep this going and try to keep using this as a revenue stream for our schools. Now, if we teach a class and we put it out there and somebody downloads it, that person almost guaranteed is never going to step inside of a martial arts school. But we reached out and we're able to sell them a product. Maybe they're in Abu Dhabi. Maybe they're somewhere else where they can't get access to quality instruction. Now this bridges that gap between continents or internationally, and students can learn this way also.
Shelley actually just popped in a quick question regarding this. If you could provide any tips for lessons, online lessons, how to make them more active or more interesting, particularly for kids and whatnot.
Like during the live classes when we're teaching Zoom or something? Yeah, right. So exactly. What we do is we have a plan. Every single class has a plan, and we want to make sure that that plan has a certain goal. The goal is we got to have fun with the kids. After a while, it's going to get boring. They're going to lose interest. So we have to get creative how we do it. Now, we have challenges. So as we communicate with all of our students on a weekly or daily basis, like we all should be, create a challenge for them. This week, the student with the best form or the best mabu or the best gongbo or whatever it is, the most push-ups in class or the stands at attention, who's following, or the student that comes to the most classes online consistently is going to win a prize. And at the end of the week, you choose a student that you believe is the best or who has been showing the most. Now, as you make that announcement, we amp up our classes. The kids are having a lot of fun. Mix it up. I would recommend modifying your curriculum just a little bit. Modify it. If we're running long, super long traditional Taolu forms, break them up a little bit so the younger students or the younger students will be able to have a little bit more fun with that and be able to carry along with it. If you're doing something like that, then they'll want to carry on and have a little bit more fun and continue with the classes. That's really how I believe the classes are going to be best fed on Zoom or online.
That makes sense. And it's consistent with like most current online instruction models, which strongly recommend gamification, just making everything a contest, everything a game, more in short sequences. But yeah, that makes sense.
Right, and Matt, the one thing that's important too, everything that we do, or everything that all schools should do right now, and all coaches, everything should be geared around retention. Everything should be geared around retention. That should be our mindset. And being leaders, not just for our students and their families. Remember, everybody's afraid. Nobody knows what's going on. But we want to give them a little bit of normality right now, and we want to teach the best we possibly can. Step outside of what our comfort zone is and create something. And I'm a fond believer, and I try to reach out to different industries and see what they are doing, to ask, how are you making this better for this gymnastics class, or how are you making this better with this Zumba class, and try to integrate that just a little bit to try to help with the classes that we have going on right now.
Great. Actually, that segues perfectly into the number three was student retention, getting your students to come back through the quarantine. Can I ask for kind of to tie in the previous question, and we were just talking about online. How do you take your online content and tie it in with the rest of your regular school program? As far as like, because we obviously for the online program, it can be anyone inside or outside the school. But as far as the content, how do you tie it all back in so that you or utilize your online programs for that student retention or maybe even student acquisition by getting people, drawing people in and incorporating them into your school, into your school environment and school curriculum.
Okay, so what we've done is we've created a new curriculum for the pandemic. Now, we have only so many students that are always going to stay online. They are not going to come into the school. So we're servicing both sides, but we created a curriculum that fits that model. They'll get all of our training, maybe not the long forms or maybe not the self-defense, because it's really hard to teach self-defense on Zoom or streaming. But we want to make sure that we give them the nuts and bolts of what our programs are all about. And it will fix, believe it or not, I've seen through our Zoom and behind the scenes during when one of our other instructors is teaching, and I'm really watching, or I'll go back and look at the videos, some of our students are actually getting better. They're actually getting better because it's just that one person, that's all they see. They're not having all the distraction left and right, but what they're doing is seeing each other and being able to focus just only on that one instruction, as long if it's done to where they can understand and they can learn. But some of them are getting better. What we want to do is when they come back to the school when the pandemic is through, or when they allow the schools to open back up again, we want to integrate what we learned online and what we were teaching and bring it right back inside the classroom. So we're taking that curriculum, which we had our huge curriculum at one point, and we shook it to put it what makes sense inside the online for the class at home for our students. Like, for instance, we recently switched. We were all obviously, Wushu and Kung Fu. We're forms based. What we decided to do is we created new forms for the kids. Now, they're based off of our regular forms we do, but we created them small so this way the students can do them at home. The teens and adults, we created another area where it's all Sanda based. Now, they're doing kickboxing drills and skills. They still do a little bit of forms in there. They're doing their body toning or their body conditioning, flexibility. Everything stays the same. But this way, when they come back, everything's kind of blend together and trying to get them to keep some type of normality and consistency with their training. Is that coming across clear?
Right. But that's coming. That makes sense. But let's go back to student retention just a bit. As far as like, are there systems? Are there and you mentioned communication. How do you talk, particularly for kids classes? How do you talk to the parents? How do you convince them, or to continue in this uncertain time that it's safe to come back to the school, that it's a good idea for them to continue with your program?
Okay. So one thing that I think is really important is to, with our communication, put that out there. Let them see how we are cleaning the school, what our goals are, what our thoughts are, what we're going to do when they come back. So we want to let them know that we do have policies and procedures in place for that. One thing that's really important is to make sure that as we're teaching our classes, everything loads up to the next class. Everything just keeps building and building and building. We know that everybody's at home, they're cooped up, people are afraid, they haven't been out of the house, depending on what part of the country you're in. So we want to create that emotional content. So what we do is, and I learned this from Jin Hung Lee in Arizona, Coach Lee always said, connect, give some type of connection, an emotion for your students. So when we're teaching, we always have, depends on how long the classes are. If they're 30 minutes or an hour, we'll have what we call mat chats. Now, the mat chat is, as we are teaching, we're going to give a word of the week that we're working on. So give them something that the parents can see, that what are focuses this week is going to be about respect or tenacity or whatever it may be, and we focus on that during our mat chats. We want to bring the students in and let them take a knee. Even though in their room, we make them still wear their uniform. They still wear uniforms during class online, and we get them close to the camera and we talk to them. Give them a little bit of life skill. We want to attach them emotionally back to the school. And the parents are listening, because what they're doing is they're just pushing the kids in front of the camera most of the time, and they're hanging out. So when we start talking about different things, being respectful, paying attention at home, listening to your parents, depending on the age group, right? So that's probably like about 10, 11 years old, talk about, doing things around the house. When they get a little bit older, the tone has to change. We start giving them more responsibilities at that point, making sure that they come to class when they're supposed to, make sure that they are reading. We'll give them reading assignments, making sure that they are still academically hearing that we are pushing academics on them. So this way, the parents aren't the only ones that are doing it. And really listening to what the emails that we get from our family base or from our student base. We get about 60 emails a day right now about different things, a variety of life things. And we take those and we start to work those within the students and try to integrate what we're learning or what we're hearing from the parents and giving it right back to the kids and trying to connect them that way. So that's working really well with us. Let me see.
What about, are you still continuing are you still continuing like your testing or
yes.
And in your regular programs that you had pre-coronavirus?
Right. So what we're doing with testing is the one thing that's really important about this whole time frame is communication. You have to communicate with our student base or with your student base on all levels. You want to give emails, you want to give text messaging, you want to give phone calls, handwritten cards at the end of the night, letters, social media, whatever you think you can do to get information out. Make sure you do that. Now, one thing that's really important for our students right now is, or all students across martial arts, is they have to feel that they're progressing. They have to feel that they're doing something, or if not, they're just in front of a TV or in front of a screen, and it doesn't do anything for them. So we do have set testings that we offer for our students, and the testings, what we do is we'll test them. Full uniform, stand in front of the screen, and we go through our skills and drills, whether it's a form, whether it's sparring, punching, stance drills, whatever it may be for that rotation, because we use a rotating curriculum, whatever it is for that rotation, we'll test them. And we'll show them their certificate. And by the way, Matt, one thing that's really important is what we found years ago, and I learned this from many other successful martial arts school owners, was we try not to fail our students. I know that sounds really bad, right? But bear with me for 1 second. If a student is testing, they really shouldn't fail. And the reason why is because if they were going to fail that test, they shouldn't have been involved with that test screening. So, So the ones that are not eligible, we kind of push them and weed them out a little bit. We want to make sure that they are feeling confident and they're ready to rock and roll. So we will test them and we will show them the certificate. And then about an hour and a half or 2 hours later, we will tell them, hey, we have an appointment. We have this time frame for you to come in to actually get your belt, get your certificate. And what we do is, and I know Juan Carlos does this in Mesa, Arizona, and some other martial arts schools, and we set up a drive-in. We'll set up outside. Cool. We have our banners out there. All of our instructors are in uniform. Everybody is having fun, and we set up a big just a drive-through basically with all the cars lined up like they're at a Starbucks or something. It's actually pretty cool. And they drive up, they roll the windows down. I have an instructor, one of our junior teammates. They're filming, and the other person's taking pictures. And I use the cloud or the elephant Quan Dao. We'll put their certificate, their belt, their fate, whatever weapons, and we'll send that in like it's a pizza or something like that. We'll send it in there. The kids are jumping, having a good time, and it's the funnest thing. And what we have them do is we put it on our social media, and we will tag the parents. And the parents will go in there and, oh, little Johnny did fantastic. Thank you guys for doing this. And who's watching that? Their friends. Their parents. Wow, what is going on over here? How do I become a part of that? And just with that alone, this month, we're not marketing right now. But this month we've signed up 3 people already, just off of stuff like that. Just coming in, it's a natural sign up. We really didn't push it or anything like that. But the kids love it, and you just keep it. And here, one thing that I heard many years ago from my coach was, people don't remember what you tell them. People always remember how you make them feel. And that's a feeling. Right. If you do a testing like this, that's a feeling that why would they want to leave? They'll want to stick with your martial arts school or stick with your programs forever. So that's a good thing. If someone's not doing that, I recommend that if you haven't done a testing right now, now's the time to do a testing. And you can reach out to me and ask me, questions. I'll give you all of our information to help with that.
Terrific. Actually, we can segue into the next point, which was because the online testing is that sounds really fun. But we're also at the point where most schools can start to reopen. And as you've already covered, the communication and the fear, uncertainty, and doubt about whether or not to come into the school. How do you recommend reopening the school? How to set up your Wushu school so that everyone can be confident that you're compliant with all the health regulations? But more than even beyond that, how can they feel good about being safe inside your school, dropping their kids off to your school, and that they'll be in a good environment and to the best of our ability, virus-free?
It's really important, as schools start to open up. Here in Colorado, we're not really able to open up yet. We're still kind of a partial shutdown. I'm here in California, opening up soon. I'm here in Florida's already opened up. I'm sorry?
California just today, or actually as of midnight on the 12th, so yesterday, we can open up. Good.
So what I think and what I'm seeing from research and from friends that I'll reach out to and ask them questions is the main thing is to really see what your county health department has for the regulation for that first. That's first and foremost. See what phase you're in, what you can and what you can't do. Once you have that base, then you can create everything else along with that. So this way you're staying compliant with them. One thing you don't want is to have a health inspector show up at your door and shut you down. It's happening across the country. It's not a pretty sight. So that's first and foremost. Make sure you know your rules, what you can and can't do during this pandemic or during this time frame, and what phase you're in. What I feel is really important is oversaturation of communication. Make sure you communicate with all your family base. Make sure you're sending emails. Let them know what you are doing. Let them know, hey, we have procedures in place. If you want to come to our martial arts school, you want to take classes in person, this is what you need to do to make that happen. You can't just show up at the front door, and even though you're a student, we'd love to see you, but you can't just show up. Everybody has to be pre-signed when they come in. They have to sign up online or sign up on their student app to be able to come to our classes. Once they have that signed up, they'll come to the school, and with the protocols that we have or any school has, have them displayed, make sure everybody knows them inside and out. So when you come to our school, we'll have tape markers that have 6 feet. So when a student comes in, every student and parent has to wait 6 feet. There's a table at the front door. They can't just come in. We have an instructor, or we'll have somebody based with them in front. They take their temperature, make sure that they are at the 99.9 or below. Anything above that, they got to go home. They can't take classes at our school that day. They probably need to go to the doctor and get tested. After that, the student comes inside the school. They can't wear their shoes that they were wearing outside, so no fei-yus running around the neighborhood anymore. They got to take those off and wear regular shoes into the school. They'll get hand sanitizer when they come in. We'll have a table that has masks that they can use, or they're disposable masks. So we provide masks for them, hand sanitizer everywhere, and we clean the school immensely. And we want to make sure that the students and their families see us cleaning the school. So this way they get that visual confirmation with that. Also, take pictures of yourself, take pictures of your staff, short video, put it on social media. Let them see you cleaning and what the protocols or what steps you're taking, so this way everybody feels safe. Right now, the most important ingredient is consumer trust or student trust. They have to trust that you are doing everything possible to keep your school, the community, and their children safe while they are training with you. So it's very important that we do that. Let me see. One thing I recommend, and ours is on the way right now, but one thing that I recommend is purchasing an air purifier or a UV ionizer deodorizer to help clean your school, clean the air, process the air. Right now, I believe Amazon has them for like $299, and I know it's a little bit of a little expensive, but what that does, it'll clean the air, and it'll give the perception from all your students and their families that you're doing everything possible to keep your school clean and keep everybody safe. So it's really important that we have it, and we show them that we have it. Put it in a corner where everybody can see it. It's going to cycle out that air. And from what my research, and I have a friend in Florida who has one of these, and he told me, Jerry, when I put this thing on, you can't smell anything bad in my school. Everything smells so clean and fresh because of this air purifier and what it does to the air. And so, I mean, if you have those kids that come in all dusty and they're just stinking up the place, guess what? It's gonna cycle that. It's gonna cycle that out for them.
It's clean that up for you. Talking about the kids, Darren actually had a quick question. I think we can pop this one in. What do you think? Obviously, all of the federal requirements are for the instructors; they must have masks. But what about for the students, particularly the kids? Do you recommend that must they all wear masks? And if you do, how would you enforce that? Because younger kids or whatnot, how are you going to make them wear a mask and keep it on their face for a full hour?
Right. And that's important. And that's one thing. We offer the mask. We tell the students and their parents from the car to the school, they need to wear a mask. Inside the school, it's entirely up to them. The littler ones, like our little champions, our little dragons, they all wear masks because they're little. They're not excelling, they're not pushing too hard. But some of the older students, it's entirely up to them. If they are not showing any signs of sickness and they don't have temperature, that's entirely up to them and their family. Recently, I read an article where there were two teenagers that died because they were wearing masks, and they were working really hard. I'm not sure what sport it was, but they died because they were holding on to those masks. And they couldn't get the proper air inside their lungs, and they pass away. So we got to be really careful what we're teaching, how we're teaching it. We do have our junior wushu team. And some of the kids, they wear masks. Their parents, you're going to go to class, you're going to wear a mask. What we have them do is we'll have them do a couple of lines, basic stretches or a section or whatever, and we have them pull the mask away from their mouth in their own little corner, in their own little zone area that has social distancing of 6 feet, and they'll breathe on their own. And they'll breathe, and then they'll put it back on, and then they'll go. One thing we've used at our school for the last 14 years is incense to make it smell really good inside the school. We stopped using incense because of the mask. We don't want them to have a harder time breathing. So, but the mask really, it comes down to your state. Every state, every jurisdiction is different. They may say it's mandatory. Here for us, it's not mandatory. So once again, just make sure that you are paying attention to what your health department puts out there.
I see. Okay. And let's go into a little bit of wushu specific for classes. What about will you still recommend that people still go with weapons training, or what about? I mean, obviously, they at least for California, they're saying we can't. The instructor can't touch the students, and the students can't touch one another. So that takes out like doilian or the fighting sets or any sort of interactive applications or anything like that. But do you have any recommendations on how to teach like kids in this format? Like, are you going to section off your schools so that they each have their own area to practice, or do they all have take turns in the on the carpet like normal? But then what do they do when they're not there? How are you going to enforce the social distance? So we inform all of our students on their families through email or however we send the information out to everybody. But we do adhere to the social distancing, 6 feet.
On our floor, we have dots all across our floor. I don't know if you can see the camera and see some of the dots that are back there.
I think I see them.
If you look, there's some of them that are red, white, red.
Right.
That's exactly 6 feet apart. So a student can stand on that and still be social distancing, make sure that they're away from each other. Okay. Now, I apologize, I couldn't bring them. I tried getting them in time, but for a mask, the one thing I found that is really good for Wushu is the face covers, the face shields. Mm-hmm. So this way you can still breathe. You don't have to have the mask over your mouth. Coaches can use them. Everybody can use them. So this way they still can breathe and there won't be any restriction with the breathing. So we're using those also for social distancing. We don't do any duilan. We're not doing any where we have to touch the students or anything like that. Right. But with their training, I recently heard, and I think this is a fantastic idea. If we have cubbies that all our students put their belongings in the cubbies, but I heard something recently and I thought it was a fantastic idea. And what they were doing is when students come in, they get assigned like a tub, and this tub will hold all their belongings, even their weapons and things like that. And that tub, they section it and put it across around the school, so they have their own private area where nobody touches their weapon but themselves. That's fantastic. Perfect. And we've been using our cubbies, but I heard that yesterday, and I'm like, oh, fantastic! Guess what? I'm gonna go buy me some tubs because. Right. It really does give the visual of everybody is safe. We're doing everything we possibly can to instill consumer or the confidence and trust from our students and their families that they're going to stay with us. Now, I always look at it as, a restaurant. I love going to restaurants. I'm a foodie, man. I love all kinds of food. Being a vegetarian now, it's really tough. But going to a restaurant, and if they are not cleaning properly, this is pre-COVID, but if they're not cleaning properly, the blinds are dirty, and in the corners there's, filth. Do I want to be there? No, I just don't go back ever again. I treat my martial arts school the same way. And if I come visit somebody's school, I always look right away. I want to see, what they're doing. But clean out your clutter. If you have lots of clutter, like we had swimming pool noodles we'll use, on the little kids for their blocking and their punching and jumping, we threw all that stuff away. We want to keep it nice and clean so when people walk in, they say, okay, well, this is bare. I like it. Because bare means that everything is out. That virus is not going to stick around, and it's not going to be on a surface when somebody goes in touch. We clean everything. In between every class, there's 15 minutes. The door locks. The instructor that's up front or the person that's in charge, they lock that front door or they stop anybody from coming in. Our classes are going on. As soon as they end, the main instructor gets their belongings, takes them outside. They don't even see each other. Next group comes right back in. They put their stuff away, get cleaned up, put their mat, whatever they need. They go right to the floor where they're supposed to be. They have their own weapons. Instructors don't even touch them. It's clockwork back and forth.
Nice. We're at the 45 mark, so we're starting to run out of a bit of time. But we still have one more point. I just was hoping that you could touch on, and then for all of our attendees. Jerry's been nice enough to agree for another one of these chats on August 8th. So we will be able, anything points that we weren't able to cover here, we will be able to do on another session. But I was just hoping you could just give some highlights of another question that people had was kind of like for many Wushu schools, the after-school program and the summer camps were really big financial draws for them, and all of that is unusable right now. Is there anything you can tell them about what to do in the aftermath, or what can they do to try to salvage those programs?
Right. Right now, summer camps, believe it or not, are a hot item. People are doing very well with summer camps right now. I know in Florida, they're selling summer camps left and right. Now, it just depends on how you do them. Just like anything else, we have within our core competencies, we have to make that shift. We have to kind of make an adjustment of how we're doing our business. So right now, there was no school. Kids were out of school since March. So there was no after school pickup. There was no, before school or after school. But right now, parents are working from home. So are we looking at this in the right direction? Maybe when you say, all right, parents are working from home, but they need those kids to do something. Maybe you don't have the after-school pickup. But what you could do is you can have a mid-morning class for them. And still, remember, we don't discount any student tuitions. Our tuitions are exactly the same still because we're going to provide more services for them. We want to go over and beyond. So depending on the state or the county, you still can run your camps. It just depends on how you service those camps. Now,
right. Well, what about the after-school program, for instance? Like, obviously, there's no physical school. I think one of the questions that I received was, like, some schools have even gone so far as to invest in vans and invest in other equipment to make that possible. Is there a way to still make that work for them, or like that business equipment still work for them, or is there any ways you recommend that they still use that, or is it just all on hold until the end?
No, I think there's still a way to do that. I think if they, depends on their county. If they're able to still have small groups of 10 students, why not run a small camp? You still could run camps. Why not do a camp online? Why can't you do camps online? Why can't we do a 4-hour, 5-hour camp 3 times a week? Or one time, whatever it is, once a week. A 4 or 5-hour camp, charge them $199, and that's just a different avenue. We may not be using our trucks or going out to pick up the students, but we definitely can still run a camp. We can run an after-school program for them, but we're just doing it within our school. Just depends on what phase that the cities are allowing the schools to open up at.
Okay, all right, terrific. We have another specific question from German Garcia, and he asks, are there any suggestions for schools which have had their place shut down indefinitely? Like his training facility is not available anymore. Do you think he should go all online? Do you think he should train at find a park? In his particular case, I believe he has about 20 students. So teaching at a park with 6 feet distancing means he need a megaphone or something in order to.
That's good. I recently helped a gentleman, similar situation. Whole building shut down. His business shut down because the building had shut down from the person he was subleasing from. What we found out and what we decided to do was have a class in the park. Depends on what part of the country you're in. If it's warm all the time, you can have a class out in the park. That's not a problem. It's just how you structure it and what the goal is of your school. If right now there are a lot of places for rent. A lot of places. So if your place gets shut down, you possibly can go sublease somewhere else, maybe with a dance studio or maybe with a gymnastics school. Gymnastics schools are fantastic because they have a lot of open space, a lot of open time. They can sublease you some time frame there also. But if you're going to teach out of out of a park, I don't see a problem with that at all. I'm not sure how long you can go that way if you don't have a plan put in place. But I could see you somebody having a school out there. And this gentleman that we're talking about, he's been doing it for about a year now, and he seems to be doing really well with it. So it definitely could be done as long as you have the proper business plan and the proper policy and procedures in place for that.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And then for let's see. We covered aftermath. We got that's German's question. Let's talk about back to teaching methods. So one thing we didn't go through is in class being back in the school, teaching at a facility. What do you recommend the policy be for the parents? Do you have them stay, or it's 6 feet apart, or then have an expanded area? Or
yeah, we've shut down the lobbying period. We've shared our Zoom classes with the parents. We have an app for our phone, so the parents can they get the email and the text message, and they are able to watch from the car. They come to drop their child off. They do their class. They can sit in the car or whatever they're going to do, or go outside, and they can click on that link and they can watch their students train. But zero.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we don't have anybody inside the school other than the students themselves.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. And
I do have one thing to add that I wanted to hit on, and I didn't. And if I have a couple of minutes. Right now, if your city is shut down and you're not able to have regular classes like you normally would, I recommend you do not market. Do not spend money on marketing at all. It's a waste of money. You're feeding, it's just a waste of money. Reallocate that money somewhere else or save it. Once your city starts to open up, that's when you want to open it up and start doing your marketing at that point in time. Once we have the opening procedures, like right now, California open today. I would say I would have your instructors, yourself, or whoever it is on the phone during downtime, contacting all previous inquiries for your school, people that were interested with your school, find out former students, they need a place to go. Students that left you to go play baseball or soccer, guess what? There really is no baseball or soccer right now. Get them back into the school and just keep pushing and pushing. So I wouldn't do any marketing if your school is shut down right now.
Right.
And save that money when the city opens up again. That's when you kind of push forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. And in some ways, like the money the investment you're making for your sanitization is in some ways becoming your marketing money anyway.
Correct.
If you're doing it as you recommend. There was one more question that I had missed before, so I wanted to go back, and that was Mohammed asked about what brand do you recommend for air purifier? Which one did you get from Amazon?
Let me look up. I have it right here. Give me 1 second. I went and got. Give me 1 second. Because there are a bunch of them that are out there. It just kind of depends on which one works best for you. And this one was recommended to me by a gentleman out in Florida. It's Ivation.
Okay.
And I can share if it's okay if I share it on here. But this is the one that I got right here. I'm sorry, that's my daughter calling me. But that's that's the one right there.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
And what's really cool with these ones is it has lights on it. So when it's green, it means the air is fine. But then when it starts turning yellow, it starts turning on. And then when it's red, it's working really hard to kill the viruses, get the smell out, and it's just constantly pumping. And what's cool with this gentleman in Florida that has one is he puts it right next where the families are sitting or when they're coming in. And he said that thing starts moving. And the parents are just like, this is fantastic. You're doing everything you're supposed to keep this place clean. We love it and we want to stay. So that's the type of attitude that we're trying to bring to our customer base for the trust of coming back.
Terrific. That makes sense. Can I just one last thing for the air purifier? Is it freestanding or do you tag it into your HVAC system or
there's two of them.
How did that work?
Two of them. This one's freestanding, and you put this in a corner. You can put it up somewhere where it has a little bit of space. It has some things, filters. You gotta change on the inside every month or so. But if you contact your HVAC person, they can actually go to the roof or wherever your system is and actually install one in there. That's a little bit pricier. That's for the serious schools that are really big. But the one I got hits for 3,700 square feet, and I'm 3,300 square feet here, so it should be okay for us.
Sounds good. Okay, then we're right at that 55 mark, so we'll probably have to cut it off here. But just want to remind everyone again, August 8th, we'll have another course. We'd love to hear back from you if you want to, if anyone has any questions or if there's other things that they want to hear about. But Jerry, I really wanted to thank you for all the great information. I think this is really, really helpful. And we'll look forward to seeing you in August. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. And and from now until then, if anybody has any questions whatsoever, you can contact the Federation, or if you know somebody, me on Facebook or Instagram, please reach out. Everything information I have, I'll send your way, and I'll do the best I can to get you the information and try to help however I can. Thank you guys very much for hosting this, and I look forward to the next one, guys.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, Brandon. How are some of those questions coming through?